Good afternoon. Welcome to the show. It's Monday, it's Valentine's Day, and this is another episode of Real Talk with Mary Grace. We're live. I'm Mary Grace, and I hope that you are having a great day. Come on in, join us, and share the show as you're coming in. I'm going to give a few minutes to see if people are getting the notifications. And it looks like we're still on YouTube. That's a miracle. After today, we might not be, but we'll just deal with that if it comes. Please make sure that you are following my Rumble channel. It's Mary Grace Media, and you can find me over there. And you can also check out my Telegram, which is Mary Grace Media Official. Hope everybody's having a wonderful day. Let's see if my Facebook people are here. If you're on Facebook, come on in, say hello. So, all of you YouTube people, I'm going to ask you to start setting up your Rumble accounts because we're not going to be on YouTube forever. And of course, we're going to go over to Truth Social when that happens. I think that it may fold in YouTube. It may fold in Rumble, but I'm not sure. In any case, just be ready to migrate because I think that our days on socialist media are numbered, especially when Truth Social gets going. I think that the big tech overlords who already hate us are going to double down even more on platforms like Facebook and YouTube because they know that they have lost the plot already and they've lost the support of the people. Facebook has lost billions of dollars and actually, I think. Like millions of users. I'm not quite sure of the number, but it's a significant number. And so I just want to really emphasize that you take this seriously and get to those other platforms so that we don't you don't miss me, you don't lose out. Okay, so I hope everybody had a good weekend. It was a very interesting weekend. It was an action-packed weekend. I have so much to talk about. I don't even know where to start. I'm going to talk a little bit. I'm going to talk about some signs and wonders that God has been showing us. I think you're going to find this very interesting. The things that I've noticed, and and I'm going to talk about a little bit about Truth Social. And Marvin made a comment that I think you're going to be encouraged by what I say about this. We're going to talk about what came out explosively over the weekend about some filings at the federal level by one John Durham, and we're going to talk about just some other stuff that might come up, the trucker convoy, things like that. And I hope that you guys can stick around. If you're new, welcome to the show. I know that we've gotten a lot of new followers lately. I know that I'm really severely shadow banned on these platforms, and it really helps if you leave a comment. So if you come after the fact and you comment, then it's going to show up in your timeline on YouTube and on Facebook. And also, if you're on CloudHub, please leave comments over there. Thank you to the people who share those links. If you're in groups, if you belong to groups on any platform, please share my links into those groups if you're allowed to do that without spamming. Um, just remember that we are on Telegram. I'm going to give you the link to that right now. That is Mary Grace Media Official. So that's on the screen right now. If you're listening in the background, you can come back and take a screenshot so that you don't forget that. All right, make sure you're following me there. So here we go. What do I want to talk about first? What should I talk about first? Okay, let's see. All right, now some of you guys some of you guys are there's been a lot of discouragement. I know that it's easy to get discouraged when we see insanity taking place all around us. The hypocrisy. It's not even hypocrisy anymore. It's just pure hate. There's an obvious caste system that has been going on for a very long time. It's sort of an us. It's the elites and the serfs, and there's no in between. And we saw that with the Super Bowl last night. Los Angeles has some of the strictest masking requirements for children, even for outdoor sports like basketball, things like that. Kids are collapsing in the heat. It's just it's beyond hypocritical. There's no science behind it. It's just it's cruelty at this point. And you have 70,000 people packed into a stadium. Supposedly they had a either vax or testing requirement, but I saw some commentary on Twitter that that basically nobody was asking for it. So people brought their, vax passport and their proof of negative, but nobody even asked for it. And then I heard that they were going to hand out masks, and as you probably noticed, nobody was wearing them. And then today, as of today, children are going to school in Los Angeles, and they're actually being kicked out of school. And then get this, get this: if the school kicks your child out for not complying with the face diaper, then they will notify CPS and tell them to come and get your child, because then you're neglecting your child. I kid you not. That's part of their policy, that these are the measures we'll take. So we're going to kick your kid to the curb, and then we're going to come after you for child neglect, and we're going to come after you for truancy. I mean, this is a thing. If you go into the bonds for the win Telegram group, there's people sharing that information. So the parents and concerned citizens out in LA are working really hard to try to get these to go after these bonds of these people who hold positions of power out there, because they're just absolutely brutalizing families and children. And then, of course, their hatred for the common man is on full display at the Super Bowl last night. Not a mask in sight. I did see one around somebody's chin, but that creature that is the health director for Los Angeles, the one that looks like, is that the one that looks like Beetlejuice, or is that the mayor of Chicago? I think they're cousins, because there's kind of like a Beetlejuice vibe going on, Beetlejuice slash Adam's Family vibe with this one. Interesting. She was walking around with a boot on. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? So, anyway, these are the people that are just unilaterally, cruelly making edicts and passing down decisions about your children uh, that have nothing to do with science or health. And these children really do need our prayers. Anybody that tells you that it's okay to do this on a continual basis, and that the kids like it, or that they're okay with it, they're lying to you. And it really grieves me to see people in education who have studied childhood development, speech development, language development, anything like that, to see them telling you that this is okay. It's not okay. Children are experiencing pretty severe developmental delays, even to the point where we're seeing where they're saying that there's a going to be up to a 20 point. They're already seeing like a 20-point IQ deficit. I kid you not. Anyway, so there's something has to give. I'll tell you that. But the good thing is, on the upside, is that the parents are pursuing the surety bonds route. And if you're not familiar with that, if you're not aware of that whole procedure and process, there is a group on Telegram called Bonds for the Win, BONDS for the Win. And so, this is a way to go after the insurance coverage that these elected officials and appointed officials are required to carry. And if there's a challenge or a complaint against their bond, there is a very good chance, that the insurance company will drop them. And in most cases, school systems are required. School systems hold the bonds under like an umbrella policy for the whole system. And so once you tap into that, once you find that, then you can actually find the bonds for everybody. So I recommend that I recommend that you go and check that out, because even if you are not actively pursuing this, there's a good chance that you know somebody who has children in schools, or who is dealing with a municipal type of edict that you still need to challenge. So this bond um, strategy has to do not only with school teachers and or school administrators and school boards, but also with boards of supervisors, city council, anybody in those kinds of positions. All right. And so this is important. Please get the word out. And we are the grassroots. We are the ones that are getting out this helpful information, just like we have done with the treatments for things that the government has not been helping people get treated with. And I saw a story yesterday on Twitter that was very encouraging. Somebody said that their neighbor was dealing with pretty bad sickness, and their oxygen level was down to like 84. And they went to their neighbor's house. This was someone in their 70s. So the person who wrote this said they went to the neighbor's house. They brought all the supplies that we've talked about, that doctors have used successfully. I'm not going to go into too much detail, because the medical industrial complex is already looking for a reason to flag my shows. But you understand what I'm saying. They took all of this stuff to the neighbor's house. They had everything ready, which is what I've been encouraging people to do. And they got the neighbor ready. They even had the oxygen concentrator, and they took it over there. Anyway, like within 24 hours, the neighbor was back up to 97% oxygen sats, walking around, basically saved his life, kept him from going to the hospital for sure. And so the information that we have been disseminating is actually saving lives. And I believe that what is happening with these surety bonds, with this technique, this method that parents and community members are using, is going to have a similar effect, because they have groups for every single state, so that they can go after these people at that level. And so please continue to share that information. Please get that information out. I'm going to give you another example, another praise report about how the teaching and the grassroots efforts that we have been engaged in are helping people. I know that if you've been watching my show, you know that my friend Michelle has has asked for prayer because her husband was in the hospital. He had to have open heart surgery, and from the minute he got there, they were pushing the test on him. And they were trying, it was obvious that they were trying to make a case because of the money that comes into the hospital, for every test, for every positive, for every case, for every admission, for every ventilator, even for death. So it's just ka-ching. It's like playing, it's like hitting the triple three lemons in Vegas for these people when somebody comes in like that. And she has resisted. They've resisted from the start. And you know, the thing about this is it's been a very tough road for them, because they've had to really push back against the system, and they've had to articulate what it is that they are and are not willing to do, and stand their ground. And of course, the hospital has taken advantage of moments when she wasn't there to get him to try to get him to sign things. And so, I mean, it's very troubling, how sneaky they are. And I can't emphasize this enough. If you have somebody that is admitted to the hospital, you absolutely must get them to sign a responsible third party form, POA, so that you can help them, and emphasize to them, like, tell them, and under no circumstances are you to sign anything without me here. I can't emphasize that enough, guys. People in the hospital, they're vulnerable, even smart people. Michelle's husband is very, very smart. He's a detail person. He reads everything. And, they had him signing stuff. He wasn't even reading it because the medication he was on, he was just kind of loopy, right? And so I can't emphasize this enough. Even if your loved one is super smart, super detailed, super attentive, that's not always the case in the hospital. Some people just get white coat syndrome and they can't function at full capacity the way that they normally do. Why am I telling you this? Because what what Michelle learned during this hospital stay with her husband, I truly believe that God turned around a situation that could have been very bad and used it to teach the rest of us, and is still using it. Because what she learned, one of the things that they learned, is that over the past 2 years, hospitals have gotten so used to uh, just making unilateral decisions without involving family members because of COVID. They have, taken patients in, they have prevented family members from coming in, even when the patient wasn't COVID positive. Remember, in the first year and even into this year, they've kept people out of hospitals, and in some states they're still doing that, even if the patient isn't COVID positive. It's just policy that no visitors can come in. Well, that gives them free reign to do whatever they want, to change the meds, to add things, to subtract things, to ignore the patient, whatever it is, and so they've gotten into the habit of functioning in this bubble that is absent of personal advocates with the patient. And Michelle, one of the things that I told her, from the very start is, you have to be there. I know that it's hard on your family. Um, Trust me when I tell you that you need to do whatever you need to do to be in that room as much as possible. And guys, I'm going to tell you, I think that her decision to go to do that has actually broken something loose in that hospital, at least on that floor, because she has pushed and pushed and pushed. And there was one night in particular when he had to have a procedure done that she had come into the room. She came into the room a little bit later in the evening, and visiting hours are over at 9 o'clock. And and he was kind of in the weeds, right? And she was in the room, and then all of a sudden, one of the ICU nurses came in. Like, there was a team in there, and she was asking me for prayer. A lot of us were praying, and things started to turn around, which was amazing. Um, but the coolest thing is that she she stayed until midnight, and they let her stay. And I really think that her staying there and making it clear that they were not going to act unilaterally, that think that like change has come, you know, that there is a family member here who is pushing back against all the nonsense, and is not going to let us do what we've gotten away with for 2 whole years. I'm telling you guys, something shifted. And in a way, it's like the staff on that floor was actually relieved, because they know it's wrong. They know that what they've been doing is wrong. And so something really interesting happened this weekend. So that was about a week ago that he had that procedure. And that she stayed in the room. And they told her, you can be here, but you have to stay out of the way. And I mean, it was really dicey, guys. They were about to, like, his oxygen went down. Um, I think he stopped breathing. I mean, there it was a critical situation. And so so she stayed there. And this weekend, a nurse came in, and it was a nurse, one of the nurses that had been there that night and had also been there when Chris got admitted. And she told them, first of all, Michelle said that her countenance was completely changed for the better, because when they first encountered this nurse, she was pretty hard, pretty battle hardened. And when she came in Saturday night and talked to them, she was completely changed. And she said, "I have to tell you that, um, I wasn't sure you were going to make it, and I'm so happy to see you doing as well as you're doing. It really confirms for me that this is my calling, and that I'm in the right place." And imagine that, guys, because she knew, she's been there enough to know that when he first was admitted, she knew from experience, from what they've done for the past 2 years, that had not Michelle been there and insisted on the things that she did, and put her foot down and resist and constantly be a thorn in their side, um, that Chris wouldn't have made it, or that he would have been locked away in ICU on a ventilator. She didn't say that, but that's what she was saying without using the words. And why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because it's just absolutely essential that people take back the system. And how do you do it? How do you do it? You do what Michelle did. Like I said, if somebody that you love gets admitted in the hospital, um, change your whole schedule, because they need you there. And the nurses and staff need you there to put your foot down, to push back against the system physically in the hospital. Okay? Um, I'm going to read this comment by Lisa, because we prayed for her son who had it and was flown into the government hospital from their area in Alaska. She said, "When my son was airlifted to the city government hospital, his wife immediately drove the 300 miles and was mainly in the parking lot with her phone charged to communicate with him. Thank God." Yeah. So she was there physically. And so, you know, because he didn't have that diagnosis, Michelle was able to be with him. And it was a real, it was a real balancing act. She had to really have wisdom in how to communicate with them strongly without alienating them, because one thing that she learned was that their policies could change on a dime. That, one day it could be visitors allowed, the next day, no, sorry, we can't, no, can't allow visitors. We had an outbreak or whatever. And the other thing that she let them know was that they weren't participating in the scam. Um, she told them flat out. She said, "If he's positive, we're going home, and I'm treating him because I know how to. We have people who will treat him. You're not going to get the government money out of my husband. So you might as well back off, because we're not playing that game." And then the same thing that happened over the weekend, because they were trying to discharge him to a nursing home. And she said, "No, we're not doing that." She said, "It's either acute care, acute rehab, or home, with home nursing and physical therapy. He's not going to a nursing home, because I know what happens there." And she said, "And now they've got some super secret strain going around that can't even be tested for, and I know how this ends. Um, so no, we're not doing this." And the doctor knew what she was talking about, and he backed off. So it's important, and I'm going into details about this because I think it's important for people to understand that you no longer have the luxury or the ease of being able to just say to the doctor, "Okay, doctor, whatever you say, Just call me or let me know what's going on. First of all, they don't call you. They're not going to tell you what's going on. You have to push and push and push. And here's the other thing we found out. Do you remember when we were talking about if anything happens that needs attention, that you get a patient advocate? Well, she kept asking for that, and they kept telling her, oh, that's not a thing. The doctor is the advocate, the case manager is the advocate. Lie. That's a big liar. You're a liar. They're lying. Um, no, here's what they did. They changed the name of it. They no longer call it patient advocate. How do I know? Because I called the hospital. And I mean, she asked them every day, I need the patient advocate. And so how did that happen? I called the hospital. I got the switchboard. I said, "Hey, I'm trying to find the patient advocate." And the guy goes, "Oh, you mean risk management?" Um, yeah, so social worker is not the same thing as a patient advocate. The social worker is basically advocating for the insurance company. Okay. Now they're going to tell you what resources are available, but their job is to get you out of there and to save as much money as possible for the insurance company. And the social worker, the case manager at that hospital, they were some of the least competent people that we've ever encountered. So it's really important. What happens with a patient advocate slash risk management is that they're like the auditors of the hospital. They're the ones that the department does not want to hear from because it means that they've done something that is you know liable to open them to liability. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so this is what people need to understand. Write this down if you have a loved one in the hospital, because we've been told that the word for it, the title is patient advocate. Um, and she kept asking for that. Yeah, it's not that anymore. At least not in Advent Health Systems, in the East, in Florida and other places. It's risk management or risk assessment. Okay, so if you ask for a patient advocate and they keep getting you the social worker, no, the social workers are like almost as bad as child protective services. So just be very aware of that. They're trained to act like they're helping you, but they're not. They're like advocates for the insurance company. All right. So just keep that in mind. Now, let me go on to the next thing. I want to give you something else that's going to encourage you. Now, I know that a lot of people have been, listening to Elijah streams. You've been hearing the prophets. You've been trying to make sense of everything that's happening. I encourage you to keep doing that because God is really showing Himself so beautifully and so strong. And I've one of the things that I've been doing is that I've been trying to pay attention and notice little things that God shows me. And one of the things that I've noticed is eagles. If you guys recall, I mentioned a prophecy that Bob Jones gave years ago. And he said, the honkers, what was the exact prophecy? The honkers will make way for the eagles. I think it was something like that. And so, the honkers are the Canadian truckers, honk, honk, honk. And then the eagles, many people believe that that's America, the United States. And so, that's like those are signs and wonders that God uses to portend change. And so it's important that you pay attention and that you start looking for things that God is doing. Well, it's very interesting because I don't know if people know that about a month ago, I saw something in the paper. Yes, we still get the newspaper because I live with an 84-year-old man, my dad. And so I was looking at the paper and they had a story about an eagle. There was an eagle that showed up in Maine And I thought that was very interesting because in the wintertime, you wouldn't expect a big eagle to be up there. Well, it's this rare eagle that has an 8-foot wingspan. And it is, did anybody hear about that? It was pretty amazing. It's, uh, yeah, okay, so you can go and look at it. It's called the Steller's Sea Eagle, Steller. It's named after, I think, a person named Stellar. The sea eagle arrived in Maine in late December after a brief stop in Massachusetts more than a month ago. Okay. It has stuck to Maine's mid coast area. It is eating fish and ducks and attracting hundreds of bird watchers from all over the country. That was on the 25th of January, reported. It's all over the internet. Okay. Now, this bird, it's really big. It has an 8-foot wingspan. It's very rare. I mean, people are driving from out of state to see this eagle. And so there's a picture of it. All right. Now, that's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, 8 foot. That's like as long as your car. And then another thing happened. Somebody posted a video last week from Tennessee of bald eagles, just like dozens and dozens of bald eagles in the trees, just hanging out, just dozens of them. Now, I don't know about you guys, but anybody, if you spend time around water, if you go canoeing or kayaking or paddling, um, if you see a bald eagle, that's pretty cool, right? Well, that was dozens of them. And then another thing happened, uh, and that is that an eagle, let me see if I can find this. I have way too many images here on my phone. Hold on, let me find this because I think it's really cool. An eagle slammed into a window. Amazing. I sent it to somebody. It says, bald eagle smashes window at a Virginia tax office and flies off. It was on, see that? Look at that. Just, hey guys, let me smash into the tax office. I think that's kind of significant, isn't it? So these things have all happened. These things have all happened in the last month. Yeah. So I'm reading your comments on here. So I'm hearing some of you guys are telling me some eagle stories. Okay. Kathy on Facebook says, we had a bald eagle show up at our rural Kansas house about a couple of weeks ago. Extremely rare in the winter here, right? Isn't that interesting? So Paul and Rach said, Timothy Dixon gave a prophecy on December 31st that fish will rain from the sky and that it would be a sign from God that God was on the move. Here in Arkansas and 2 other states had reports from their local news of storms that brought fish raining from the sky. It was crazy. I heard about that. Yeah, so these are signs and wonders. These are things that God does to kind of show you that he's active. It's a little sign. It's like, hey, I'm here. I'm like, listen, I know what I'm talking about. Okay. And he'll do unusual things like that to let you see that it's actually him, right? Just like in Gideon, when Gideon was testing God, he put down the fleece and he said, "I want you to make the fleece wet and the ground dry." And then he did it in reverse. I want the fleece to be dry and the ground to be wet. Things like that. And then Marilyn says, I'm from Nebraska, so I have ties to their website. They're all talking about eagles there. The 32 years I've lived there, eagles were rare. So they're showing up in Nebraska. That's interesting because that's where Pastor Hank Kunneman is. Oh my gosh. Lisa says in Alaska, a bald eagle just flew by my window. They're common here, but I thought it was nice while listening to you. I think that's a pretty good sign, Lisa. All right, kind of cool. Uh, Pat says she heard about a rare eagle from Russia here in the US. Yeah, so start what I want you to do is I want you to start paying attention to things like this. Start looking and having eyes to see because God's going to start showing you things like that. And then usually when that happens, it means that things start to happen in the natural, like in the political realm, things start to shift. So whatever word he has given, like a lot of times he'll give Pastor Hank Kunneman words that say, when you see this, then I am going to act, and this is going to change, like in the political realm or the social or geopolitical kind of thing. So that's significant. The other thing that I've noticed is that things are around Israel are starting to happen. I don't know if you guys remember during President Trump's first 4 years um, that he was instrument. He got the Abraham Accords took place, which was groundbreaking. That there it was the first time that Israel was was having diplomatic relationships with certain countries in the Middle East, basically with the Arab countries, right? And uh, so just yesterday, it was announced that the Prime Minister of Israel, Bennett is his name, is going to Bahrain. This is a first. It's a first time for an Israeli Prime Minister to go there. Also, Jared Kushner is being recommended, has been nominated for the Nobel Prize for his work on implementing and getting the Abraham Accords in place, which is amazing. And then the other thing that's happening is that there's a convoy headed to Jerusalem. I think they're there now. So Jerusalem is in gridlock because the trucker convoy is gone to Jerusalem. Guys, these aren't coincidences. It's God is showing you that things are happening. And so for people who say nothing is happening, you need to open your eyes because things like this don't just happen out of the blue. Okay, this is God's way of showing you, hey, pay attention. Things are actually happening. Okay, I want to encourage you about that. And I want to I want to encourage you also because one of the things that is very tempting when it gets when things do start to happen, the devil is going to hit harder. And one of the things that he does is he tries to wear down the saints. That's what the Bible tells us. That he's relentless. The devil is relentless. He wants to wear you down. And one of the ways that he does that is by negativity. And so when you're around people that are what we call black pillars, that are constantly saying, "Oh, nothing's ever going to happen," this is so horrible, or they're emphasizing the negative. Be very careful about uh, what you allow into your ear gates and your eye gates, because that will have an impact, and that is inviting the enemy in to buffet you and to take down your morale. One of the most important things that commanders know in the military is that morale is key. And if there's somebody that is bringing down morale, if there's somebody that's bringing down morale, they have to be removed from the group. And so let me just take a drink. And so it's really important that if the person or the situation that is obviously a black pill, if you're confronted with that, make every effort not to allow that to take hold. If you have to remove yourself from a situation, if you have to spend less time with a person, if you have to turn something off, I think it's vitally important to do that right now. And the thing that comes to mind, I, I think is very interesting, is, you know how the Bible says that God laughs at his enemies? I think that the Canadians are giving us a really good example um of how to do that, because you know their situation is really deadly serious. I mean, people, like, they've lost way more than a lot of people, because they're living under the tyranny of Fidel Castro's son, and the apple does not fall far from the tree. There's nothing, um, there's nothing about Trudeau that is charitable. He's not a reasonable. He doesn't want to negotiate with them. He's doubling down on tyranny, and and uh, and unless he has a life changing encounter with Jesus, that's not going to change. I mean, I'm talking like Paul on the road to uh where was he going? Uh I want to say Emmaus. Where was he going, guys? I just drew a blank there. um but yeah, but here's the thing that the Canadians are doing, which I love. So on Saturday, Justine came out and said that he was going to double down. Thank you, Damascus. Um, that he was going to double down, right? There was no, he didn't want to talk to them. So what did the truckers do? They put up a stage and had a dance party. They did. They were like, oh, okay, tyrants are going to tyrant. Okay, all right, because we already told you we're not leaving. And so think about it, guys. They brought bouncy castles, cotton candy. People are giving out hugs. They're giving free food. The Sikhs are there. They've got somebody put up a hot tub in the street. Uh, they literally, I mean, and it's driving the people crazy. The people, the haters, it's just driving them crazy, because they're like, how is this okay? How on earth are they allowed to have a hot tub? And the police are just standing by. Like, it's really triggering the haters. Um, but it's like the Bible says, you just it's like you're heaping coals upon the head of your enemy with kindness. They're literally killing them with kindness. They are. And I mean, it's like, because anybody that comes into Ottawa, and this is the reason that Justine doesn't want to allow it to go on, is because every person that goes down there that is not completely insane, is is being red pilled. They're seeing, they're like, wait, I just walked into the bouncy castle revolution. I thought these people were evil, racist Nazis, but they're they got a bouncy castle and they're having a dance party and they're giving me free food and they're hugging people, and the city is cleaner than it's ever been, and the crime is down. I've never felt so safe in my own city. And oh, hey, there's a hot tub. I mean, like, so you're walking around with your cotton candy, your free cotton candy, or your shawarma, or your burger, and oh, there's a hockey game that broke out over there. And it's just like, they're moving in such an opposite spirit of the anger that the media is trying to tell them. Like, it's a let's go Brandon moment on steroids, because the media is telling them 24/7 that these are violent, wicked people. And then people show up, they're like, I got to see this for myself. And thank God they are, because they're just looking at this and they're going, uh, I mean, talk about cognitive dissonance. It's the very worst thing that the left could have done, and the media was to vilify the protesters. They should have just ignored it. But we've seen this happen before. They're so they're so intent on shutting down anything good, because evil just cannot stand light. Evil cannot stand it. It's like they're compelled to go after these people. And because of that, because of the 24/7 coverage, people are curious. They're like, um, they're like, oh, I think I'm gonna go check this out. And then, yeah, so they literally end up in the middle of a bouncy castle insurrection. So here's basically what's going on in Ottawa. Okay. And if the leftists had any sense of humor, they would start a whole line of merchandise and make shirts like this, you know? Like, I went to this insurrection and all I got was cotton candy and free hugs, you know? I mean, but they don't think that way because they're socialists. They don't actually think like capitalists, so it doesn't work. But let me just show you this other one. This is the if you don't think I'm serious about the hot tub, let me just show you, okay? Here's the hot tub. It's inflatable. See that? Yeah, right there. And this guy, the journalist, the blue check, this is what he says. Oh, he's not a blue check. He wants to be though. He says police in Ottawa, and then he tags them, stood by and did nothing as protesters installed a hot tub in the middle of a downtown street. The horror. We have images of police fist bumping protesters. What next? Police carrying their bathwater or scrubbing their backs? And I responded, I said, somebody needs a hug. Um, I mean, this is I mean, the poor guy. And you know what God showed me? This is on a serious note. If you remember during 2020, they called it like the summer of love when Antifa was burning down cities and attacking federal courthouses. Um, speaking of hugs, Mike Lindell, I think, sent pillows to the protesters. The pillow guy sent pillows. I love him. He's like one of the top trolls in the world. I love him. But yeah, so I was thinking about Antifa because the difference here is that if the Antifa kids had actually experienced something like this, they wouldn't they wouldn't be burning stuff down. Like somebody got mad on Twitter that a father was bringing the leftists are big mad that kids are at this protest. They're like, nobody should bring their kids, right? You're using them as shields, right? But they're actually teaching the kids that, peaceful, nonviolent resistance is actually our God given right. But it's really triggering the left. But here's the thing. If more people had taken their kids to these types of protests, then we wouldn't have Antifa because the kids that are in Antifa that get sucked into gangs like that are the ones that don't get the hugs, that don't get the love. I mean, it's a very serious situation. And Barry Wunsch was talking about this. He said that they got an Antifa kid that came in to try to break up the protest. I don't know what he was thinking, but I mean, like truck driver, ISIS and skinny jeans with a a hipster beard. Like probably not a good idea to come against the truck drivers. But anyway, he wasn't thinking clearly, and so the kid shows up and they started loving on him. They gave him a pair of gloves. They're like, "Hey, you look hungry. Hey, you look cold. Here's a jacket." And they said that he just broke down in tears. He's like, "Why are you doing this?" And this is what this is what I think is so important, that the Bible says that they will know them, meaning the Christians, by their love for one another, and by extension to the unloved. All right. And and that is the key here, because what people are finding when they go into Ottawa is that it's like the winter of love. They're literally having dance parties, bouncy castles, cotton candy. They're got little wagons. They're pulling fuel around. They have little fires, warming tents. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And And I told you guys about the gas cans, which was so awesome because the police made it illegal to bring fuel in to the area or supplies, and so everybody started getting gas cans and bringing them in, which I thought was so good. Let me show you this meme. It's so good. Uh, Hold on. Here we go. It's the new Ottawa bag. You know how they have the Birkin bag? Well, this is the Ottawa bag. It's so funny. But that's what happened, right? And that's just, and that is just an act of solidarity and love. And so, it's because of that that the powers that be, they don't know what to do. They're completely they're disarmed by this. The, it disempowers them because, you know, typically when we're confronted with hate, our human nature wants to fight back, to fight back in kind. And I mean, I'm guilty of this. I have a pretty quick tongue and a pretty quick wit and a quitty, I can have a quick temper to like fire back at somebody. But what's happening here and what is so beautiful is that they're actually like these people, the truckers don't want violence. Um they they don't want violence, and they're not only are they acting peacefully, but they are proactively coming at the hate with love, um, which is um, which is just amazing. It's just it's a beautiful thing, and that is what we're seeing out of this. And so, how does that lead into the honkers making way for the eagles? Well, I think that we're about to see because Americans are getting activated. Americans are getting activated to go on the move. There's a convoy that's going to be happening. Um, the left is trying their best to set up false flags, um, and to do what they do best, which is to create incidents that provoke anger. Um, and so this is something really to pray into, that as we, and they're also they're trying to, they're trying to capitalize on the whole January 6th situation. And, and so I'm interested to see how this translates into what happens in America with our convoys, with the next wave of freedom in America. So we'll just see how that goes. Now, speaking of January 6th, it's something very interesting has happened. It turns out that we knew this. You know it. I know it. Everybody with a half a brain knows it. But it turns out that President Trump was right all along, and that Hillary Clinton and the Obama administration and pretty much everybody who wasn't on Team Freedom was spying not only on his campaign, but on his presidency, which, by the way, is treason. And John Durham filed in federal court evidence to that effect over the weekend. And how does that affect where does January 6th come into that? Well, one, we are almost certain that that whole thing was a setup, that the feds instigated that. And I talked to you about that the other day. But the other thing is that turns out Liz Cheney has a conflict. Her husband um, gets let me see if I can find it. Liz Cheney's husband gets contracts. Um, uh, is it Russian or Ukrainian? I've got so much information swirling around in my head right now. I'm not going to tell you something that's not accurate, so we'll come back to that. But the point being that Liz Cheney is one of the Republicans that is leading up the J6 committee. The January 6th committee Guys, the whole purpose of this, um, uh, the whole purpose of this. Okay, somebody says I think. Okay, so I think Liz Cheney's husband has contracts, defense contracts with China. Maybe, yeah. There's a conflict of interest there. Yeah, but the whole purpose of January 6th, a couple things is one is to distract from everything that's legitimately going on. Pay close attention to what's coming out with the Durham report, because everything that President Trump um, has said is true. And, if you've been watching, Leslie Stahl sat down for an interview with him for 60 minutes, and I think it was supposed to air last night. Well, that didn't work out too well because she called him a big fat liar when he said that they spied on his campaign. And, what do you know? They were pushing that, they were promoting that interview, and they were promoting that part of it. And then all of a sudden, it comes out that actually Leslie was wrong. And so I believe they pulled that segment. I believe that 60 Minutes did not air that segment. So yeah, she just sat there and basically called him a liar. But the whole point here is that A, they want to distract, but B, what they really want is to kneecap President Trump, to take him out of the picture so that he legally cannot hold office. I mean, that's what they've been trying to do with the impeachments. That's what they're trying to do. So look at the J6 thing as impeachment hoax 3.0, because that's really what it is. All right. If you understand that, then you understand the people that have been held without charges, they're collateral damage. It's really all done, with an attempt, as it's all an attempt to take him out. So just understand that, okay? There's no other reason that they're doing this. And if you look at the timing of everything, the way that it was all planned, they were able to disrupt the certification in the House at the very minute that Arizona was about to object to the electors. All right. So this is there's nothing accidental about what happened there. All right. Yeah, COVID was part of it as well. Yeah, so Leslie Stahl, she's one of, hundreds of journalists around the world that owe President Trump a big fat apology. And not to mention the ones that, the vilification and demonization of President Trump as a private citizen. He should sue every single network, every single one. Um, Not to mention the suits that he would bring against government officials for doing what they did to him. Not to mention the fact that what they did was actually treason. So remember, it was done. The initial spying was done under Obama. Then it went into President Trump's presidency, and it was done. But what what Durham is saying is that Hillary paid for all this, right? But anybody that thinks that Obama was not part of it is living in la la land. So it's definitely worth paying attention to. You really should be following President Trump's channel on Telegram, um, where they post all of his statements. Also, Liz Harrington is the official spokesperson for President Trump. She's on Twitter. So I recommend that you follow her account, because every statement that he puts out is posted by her. Okay. So guys, this is big. I mean, this is really big. This is big. Um, President Trump actually intimated over the weekend with regard to this that that he said in more in stronger times, these people would be put to death, basically, and he's right. However, the thing that he didn't say is that that's still possible because we have something in this country called military tribunals, and there is precedent for trying civilians in a military tribunal in times of war. And our country is still under a state of emergency. And so, and when these acts were committed, we were actually at war. I think technically we are still at war. And if you remember, President Trump during COVID, he kept saying, "I guess you could say I'm a wartime president." Well, guys, it could be that he was saying that not just because of COVID, but because of all the other stuff that he knew that was happening. Um, so let me see. Yeah, so this is it's things are about to get real, guys. I hope you know that. But because of that, this is why you have to be on your guard. All right. Now it's very interesting because last weekend, Dan Scavino posted a video, I think, on his Instagram, and it was a video. The words on the video were "It's happening." I can't remember the exact content of the video, but it said "It's happening." And that's one of the things that the Anons talk about a lot, like, "It's happening, it's happening," like, it really is happening. And so we've gotten some big clues. And, for example, Jesse Waters is, talking about, is giving clues that it's happening, all right? What's happening? Things are getting wrapped up, all right? So I would encourage you to really stay in prayer, to keep your eye on the ball, um, and to pay attention to what's happening right now. And just remember, they're going to keep trying stuff. They're going to keep trying false flags. They're going to keep pushing, but at the same time they know that they're going to lose 2022 midterms bigly. And so they have to be careful about how much tyranny they push right now because they actually want to win some elections. And let me just tell you something. The fact that those of you who think that the elections are rigged to the point that we can't win, I want you to get that out of your head, because we won in Virginia and we won in races that mattered. Um, and uh, and here's the other thing. Think about this. We've seen the Democrats go into elections very cavalierly. Hillary did that. She barely campaigned, right? Because they had it all sewn up. Do you remember that? And the newspapers were telling us that she had like a 90% chance of winning. Crazy, insane numbers. And then the same thing with Brandon. You know, Brandon was living in a basement and eating ice cream and sundowning every day, and like he wasn't campaigning. Dr. Jill was trying to campaign for him, but there's no way that anybody could look at what he did and tell you that they even tried to win an election because they didn't have to. They already had it rigged. And that's what President Trump told us. Plus the fact that, Brandon waited almost until the last minute to declare his candidacy. I mean, it was just a crazy situation. But, anybody that takes 5 minutes to research how campaigning takes place, what are the key elements that go into it, knows that the Democrats didn't really try in 2020 because they didn't think they had to. So what's different? Now, what they did do in 2020 was they put the cheating mechanisms in place. They put the drop boxes all over the place. They literally changed uh, election laws at state levels without authority to do so, without going through legislature. They partnered with private entities like Suckabuck, and they put these drop boxes all over the place. They did ballot trafficking. So there's evidence coming out about all of that. But the campaigner, the candidates themselves, didn't actually campaign, really, because they were depending on the suck-a-buck boxes and the machines and all of the mechanisms and the COVID vote by mail scam, right? They were depending on all of that, and so they really didn't work that hard to campaign. Um, because remember too, when you bring in money for your campaign and you don't use it, then you sort of roll it over into your next campaign, and it's very easy for people to launder money. And so basically, if they have a choice between spending the money on their campaign or just leaving it in their coffers and then like rolling it over and paying somebody's cousin to do IT, they're going to do that. Are you getting my drift? Going back to the fact that they really didn't campaign that hard. What's different now? I can tell you right now that if you watch leftist Twitter, these people are panicking. They're desperately trying to make sure that um, that they actually have good candidates. I mean, they're gerrymandering. They're trying to redistrict areas. Um, they're working very hard to make sure that they don't lose 2022. Now, let me ask you something logically. If 2022 was already in the bag for the Democrats, why would they be panicking? This is a serious question because I run into people every day who are supposed conservatives. I see comments of people who say, "Oh, that's it, I'm not voting." And people have said, "Don't vote," or "I'm not going to vote until they fix 2022." Well, guys, it's possible to do two things at once. It's possible to vote in 2022 and fix 2020. Sorry, I meant fix 2020. Are you with me here? So pay attention, read the room. The Democrats are big mad that Glenn Youngkin won in Virginia. I told you that what happened in Virginia is a watershed moment. It's a template for what is happening around the country. The Republicans, first of all, President Trump is taking over the Republican Party and bringing it back to the way it should be and getting rid of all the deadwood rhinos, the liars. So they're panicking. And the Democrats are panicking because they know that it's going to be almost impossible for them to win because they picked Brandon as their party leader, and he's a train wreck. You know, I mean, you notice he didn't go to the Super Bowl. You know who would have been at the Super Bowl? President Trump would have been at the Super Bowl. Why wouldn't Brandon be at the Super Bowl? We all know. Let's go, Brandon. Okay, everybody knows. So trust me when I tell you, all of a sudden my chat stopped. I don't know where you guys went. Trust me when I tell you that you absolutely have to get out, vote in your primaries, get to the polls, make sure you're registered to vote, and get there and vote in 2022 because it is not a foregone conclusion that the Democrats are going to take 2022. It's not. I'm telling you, just use logic. They would not be panicking if they thought they had this all sewn up. Trust me on this. Okay, guys? Now, as usual, I can't get through my whole list. I can't get through it. But I'll be back on Wednesday. I really want to talk about Truth Social, and there will be more happening with the Durham report. Pay close attention to that. Pay close attention. Boy, so much I need to talk about. All right. Yeah, so there's really interesting things happening with Truth Social, and I honestly I can see what's happening. I think that it's going to change the whole landscape, the media communications landscape completely. That's what I think is happening right now. Um, oh yeah, Carl on YouTube just mentioned. I totally forgot about this. The left is obsessed with this idea that President Trump flushed documents down the toilet, stuff that he was not supposed to take with him out of the White House. That's just the funniest thing I've ever heard. I mean, it's so comical, isn't it? Can you imagine? Can you see President Trump going, "Quick, quick, Melania, Get in here. I need your help. We gotta rip these papers up. Flush them. Oh my God, we clogged the toilet. Get the plunger. Where's Baron? Get in here, Baron. I need your muscles. I mean, these are the same people that believe that the truckers are violent insurrectionists. I mean, think about it. Do you think Trump has a fireplace at Mar-a-Lago? I think so. Or maybe a beach with a fire pit. If you're gonna like destroy documents, like who flushes documents down the toilet? That's a desperation move when you have nowhere else to go. That's a desperation move, like when you're a spy in a foreign hotel room and they find you and you've got to get rid of your three other passports. That's like something out of a movie. All right. um I, I I know. It's just it's just so funny. Can you picture it? I mean, they give us so much material. Can you just I mean, it makes me laugh. I mean, think about it, guys. You got I mean, we're talking like reams of paper. I mean, they give they're just a walking meme, these people. So picture it. Like if you've ever purged your files, I purged some files this weekend. It's not easy, even just like one piece of paper. You go through, you got to get the staples out, and then can you picture it going through files and ripping up the papers and going like I have to quick, rip this up. No, smaller, smaller. It's not going to flush. I mean, guys, it's hard enough to flush like non-Scott toilet paper down most of these modern toilets. Oh, and by the way, you guys have heard Trump talk about how weak the modern water-saving toilets are. Do you think he's dumb enough to to try to flush anything down those toilets? Unless he put in like all new old fashioned toilets that have really good flushing. I mean, if they knew anything about him, they would know that like flushing anything down the toilet would be the last thing he would actually think of doing because he's talked about how bad they are. You guys know that, right? I just think it's hilarious. It's hilarious. I know. But, I mean, leave it to leftists to come up with potty jokes. I mean, with potty stories because that's where their minds are, right? Their minds are in the toilet. That's all they can think of is I mean, I just if it weren't so pathetic, you would think that they were joking, but they're not. They really believe this. They really believe that Trump would be stupid enough to sit there and try to rip up a whole bunch of papers and flush them down the toilet when he could literally burn them if he wanted to. I just think it's funny. So this is what I mean. Like, you guys, I think that I think it's important to be able to laugh at these things, you know? Um, it is. Yeah, and Lisa says like he would even have anything compromising to begin with. They've gone through everything with a fine-tooth comb. Remember when Mad Cow produced his taxes and it was a big nothing burger? Like what are they going to find? There's not that they spied on him. They spied on him. There's nothing they could find. They've seen everything. Right? I mean, just crazy. Um I just think it's hilarious. Yeah. Anyway, but we're not dealing with the sharpest crayons in the box. A lot of colors are missing. Um, and this is what we end up with. That's why they can't meme because they just they don't have the smarts to do it. That's why. Okay. I mean, you can tell this if you ever get in an argument with a leftist and you ask them to start thinking logically, they start calling you names because they can't. They can't follow a logical train of thought. So, uh, okay. Paul on YouTube, I think that, yeah, Durham is recommending indictments. So I think that's going to happen. Yeah, lots of elevators don't reach the top floor with them. Going up, second floor. Oh, good. We're there. Yeah. um, okay, guys. So listen, I'll be back Wednesday at 1 o'clock Eastern. And I hope that you guys have a good couple of days. Just do pay attention to the news, but remember what I said. Just, remember to laugh and stay focused on the good things that are happening. There's a lot of good things happening. There's a lot of good things. Be on your guard because the enemy is going to continually try to wear you down. That's what he does. Okay, guys, thank you to my moderators. Don't forget, follow my channel, follow my Telegram, Mary Grace Media Official, and then come back on Wednesday, share the show, and if you're watching the replay, please leave comments. Please comment on all of the channels. And don't forget, follow my Rumble, Mary Grace Media, because we're not going to be on YouTube forever. I think everybody has figured that out by now, but please don't forget, follow me on Rumble, Mary Grace Media. Okay, let me just see the comments. All right, I think that's it. I'm out. I will be back.